Okay, you can go, Kate.
Okay, do I read this part on the budget hearing or
Yes.
just
Yes.
okay. I wasn't sure if that was part of the other budget members. Okay. The public budget hearing for the Forest Grove School District is called to order in accordance with ORS 294.430. This opportunity is for public comment regarding the 2022 and 2023 budget approved by the Budget Committee and referred to the school board for adoption. In accordance with district policy, public criticism or complaints about district personnel is not allowed. Comments were made by filling out the designated form on the district's webpage. And Kathy, was there one person that wanted to make a comment?
It was Enrique just doing a test on the form. So we don't have any comments, but we can't adjourn until 5:35.
Okay, so we have 4 minutes. Okay.
Hey, Mark, you know your mic's on?
But this is what's known as dead air. It's not good on YouTube. People get bored.
We are good to move on, Kate.
Yep.
Okay, it is now 5:35. This concludes the budget hearing and public testimony regarding the 2022-2023 Forest Grove School District budget. The budget hearing is adjourned at 5:35. Okay. And I will now call to order the June 13, 2022 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting at 5:35. Roll call of board members present. Mark,
Present.
Brad,
I'm here.
Val,
Here.
Sonia. She's probably graduated already. And I'm here, and Narcy. Narcy, did you get to make it or not? Okay, I don't see her right now. Okay. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. The public comment should be submitted through the designated form on the webpage to be read by district staff or registered Zoom participants who indicated through the form they wanted to provide their comment live. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol for board meetings. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel are not allowed at this time. When it is time to share your live comment, your name will be called and the district staff will connect you to the meeting. Please state your name and relationship to the district before you read your comments. Kathy, do we have any folks that have signed up to share anything tonight?
No, no public
Okay.
comments.
No public comment. Okay. Please stand for the pledge salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, introduction of audiences and staff. So I never know how to do this. So whoever wants to jump in and go first, that's great.
General Manager of Facilities, Mark Hughes. Hey,
Eileen,
Um,
Blue business.
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
Kim. Sorry. Kim Shear, Director of Student Services.
David Warner, Communications.
Kevin Noreen, Director of Human Resources.
Enrique Pignon, Technology Department.
Okay, is that everybody?
We have a couple, we have Howard Sullivan is here. He'll go on later. He's part of our bond development committee. And we have Brigitta Martell is also here tonight.
Okay. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
Yes. So
Do
moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Val,
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't think Narcy has joined us yet. So, and I'm also a yes. Dave, how about correspondence and celebrations?
We have recognition tonight.
Okay, great.
Tonight, we're awarding the Superstar Award to Brigitta Martell, who is here with us. Brigitta was hired into a new role this year as an administrative assistant to the assistant superintendent back in November of 2021. She seamlessly transitioned into this position while continuing to perform her former position while training our new district assessment coordinator. This is quite a feat considering the sizable 3 summer grants that were due to ODE early this fall, as well as supporting the transition back to in-person instruction. She managed to accomplish all these tasks in a timely, courteous, and supportive manner to the various stakeholders of the district. While transitioning into this new role and responsibility, she has gone the extra mile to support the HR department in its work to get classified employees to pass, to become highly qualified so that they can be hired into vacant classified positions. During the pandemic and even before, some of our skilled applicants were not able to find a testing site to take the test in order to be hired by the district. Brigitta, who's already certified to be a test proctor for this test, offered to proctor the test to the applicants in order that they could be hired by the district while learning her new role. This is extremely needed as the only other certified proctor in the district was no longer available at the high school. Not only that, when applicants would pass, she would would not pass, she would provide them with studying resources and practice tests that she had learned about in order to provide people with additional resources to help them pass. Brigitta's efforts meant that some of our successful candidates who did not meet the college credit requirements were able to pass this test and be hired. Brigitta's efforts alone were responsible for approximately 8 to 10 applicants passing the test and becoming a district employee. Many of these applicants were diverse and bilingual. Additionally, she has worked tirelessly to help the elementary music teachers navigate the purchase of new keyboards and equipment. The elementary teachers did not have any experience with such a purchase, and she walked them through the process of getting quotes all the way to coordinating where the equipment would be delivered and stored. Again, a huge undertaking from a logistics standpoint, and she always had a smile on her face and a positive attitude. Brigitta is doing an amazing job in this new role, and we wanted to share with you the superstar qualities that she's exemplifying and the work she's doing to help great things happen in our district. Thank you, Brigitta.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm honored and surprised.
No.
Well, congratulations. I love working with you, going over the data books with John. So thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, Kate.
I know it's pretty boring, but I like to do it.
Oh, no, it's not boring. That's why I like to see you do it. We think alike.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Congratulations. Dave, oh, wait a minute. Do we have a student rep report tonight?
We don't tonight. Our new rep is one that we recognize. It will be Miley. Kathy, I'm forgetting her last name right now, but she.
It's Miley Vernon.
There we
She
go.
was here a couple of years ago when, who was it? Somebody couldn't make the meeting, so she
Right.
subbed in, I think,
Right.
the first year of COVID. So it
Right.
would be nice to have her back.
It'll be great, and look forward to working with her, but we'll coordinate with her in August, kind of getting going again.
Was she a junior when she was on the board before?
I think she was a sophomore.
Oh,
Yeah.
she was a
She was.
sophomore.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay. I thought we always had seniors, but I didn't realize it's open to leadership, I guess, the leadership team.
Yeah, and I
At
think
the
they
high
were
school?
kind of finding the right person to help out. So she kind of
Yeah.
stepped into a situation there to help out.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, we look forward to seeing her in August then.
Yep.
How about calendar notes, superintendent report?
Kind of a little bit of both today.
Okay.
Last week of school, that's my calendar note. As we've, John and I have been going around to do kind of our career mileposts, the years of service and folks who are moving from probationary to contract status. And in each of these presentations, we've kind of started with a thank you, face-to-face with our staff. And I want to do it here because I think it's important that we're just taking some time to go out and personally thank our staff for this year. We've hired over 200 employees this year. We have about 720-ish total employees. That's like a third, 30% of our staff is new. Now, some of those were actually, we hired somebody and then we had to hire somebody else. But still, it's just an amazing amount of folks who have come into the organization. And we saw a third of our employees come down with COVID during January and February, and we've had more COVID as the year went on. And through all of that, we had 60 plus classified employees who kind of got emergency certified to sub. We had teachers who were working on their preps. And really, while we did close our secondary schools for about a week, 2 weeks in January, really, we've been able to keep our schools open because of our staff and the work that they did this year. And so I've just been going around, and John and I have both been going around saying thank you. It was, we've got now, 3 or 4 days left, and just want to make sure that we really say thank you to our employees. Again, I think the way that everyone pulled together was really inspiring. So that was kind of my note to our staff. Thursday is the last day for K-6, and Friday will be the last day for 7-12, and they're both half days. just wanted to say a couple of thoughts about graduation. On the 3rd, we had graduation. It was fun to be back in person and to see the kids. What surprised me and what I wanted to just make a quick note about was just, I was wondering what the speeches were going to be like. And these kids have been through so much. Our seniors have had 2.5 years of COVID. And I was kind of waiting to hear from students about, did they feel like they were victimized or they were victims? And I was just so happy to hear the speeches because they were resilient and they were perseverant and they were overcoming, not the other way. And so it was just, for me, that was the thing I took out of that graduation, was just kind of the hope and optimism out of those student speeches and shaking their hands as they cross the streets, cross the stage. So yeah, again, we just have a couple of more days left and we're ready to we're already, most of our energy right now is kind of starting to get planned up and start thinking about next year. So looking forward to kind of getting after it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And thanks for sharing graduation. It's just that these several classes have really been through COVID and 2007 and 8, and they have such resilience. That's really wonderful. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Okay. I will, yeah, did you have something, Val?
I was just going to make a motion to approve
Okay.
the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a
Yep.
second?
Second?
Okay, discussion? All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val?
Yes.
I'm a yes also. And Narcy hasn't joined us yet. Okay. All right, let's move on to the action items. The first one is the 2022-2023 budget adoption, and that's Eileen.
Thank you, Kate. Tonight we have the 22-23 budget adoption for you. Oregon local budget law requires that our annual budget be adopted by the school board and appropriations made prior to July 1st of each year. Before you tonight is the approved budget by the budget committee. They approved it back a couple of weeks ago in May. There's 3 resolutions associated with the adoption of the budget, and each one should be made separately. There's a resolution to adopt the budget, a resolution to make appropriations, and a resolution to levy and categorize taxes.
Okay. Are there any questions for Eileen? 5 minutes. I have to do this in 5 minutes, Val? Okay, I'll do it in 5 minutes.
Sorry.
All right. So I will do the first one. Be it resolved that the Board of the Forest Grove School District hereby adopts the budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 in the total amount of $138,532,821. This budget is now on file at the Forest Grove School District located at 1728 Main Street in Forest Grove, Oregon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All right, Val,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Do you want me to read all 3 of these? Okay. The second motion is, be it resolved that the amounts shown below are hereby appropriated of the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 for the following purposes. I don't have the following purposes. Is that all there is to it, Eileen?
I could say it for the total appropriations. Do we have to say that part?
I think you can just say as listed.
As listed. Okay. All right, as listed. Do I have a second?
Oh. Second.
Okay, further discussion? All right, Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. The third one is be it resolved that the following Valorian property taxes are hereby imposed upon the assessed value of the taxable property within the district tax year 2022, 2023 at the rate of $4.9142 per thousand of assessed value for permanent rate tax in the amount of $6,364,879 for debt service on general obligation bonds. Be it resolved that the tax imposed are hereby categorized for purposes of Article 11, Section 11B as subject to the education limitation, the permanent tax rate of $4.9142 per thousand, excluded from limitation, general obligation bond debt service, $6,364,879. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, Mark,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, the next one is also you, Eileen, and that's the Fidelity Insurance.
Yes. So as part of our district's annual audit process, the auditors recommend as a best practice for the board to approve the district's Fidelity insurance coverage. This was brought to you last year for the first time and will be brought to you annually moving forward. Our Fidelity insurance provides the district with protection from employee theft, like money or forgery or credit card fraud, any intentional acts from employees that harm the district. Our current policy is for $1 million. It has a $25,000 deductible. And in speaking with Alicia at WSC, our insurance agent, most of her public entity clients do offer this same coverage, and none of her public entity clients offer coverage over this limit. So if we're looking at what other districts or other local governments have, that this is kind of the top end of what she sees. If we would like additional coverage, we would have to source it with an outside agency and layer it on in addition to this policy that we have. It is the maximum coverage that is offered through PACE. So at this time, we recommend the board to approve our current Fidelity insurance coverage at $1 million for the 22-23 school year.
Any questions for Eileen?
So Eileen, I have a question. This is what it currently is, right? $1 million?
Right.
And okay, all right. Did she talk at all about, whether at some point they're going to go up from that, or they're going to see a need to go up from that $1 million, or?
Right now, that is what PACE has. We did quote it out last year to get an additional layer on top of it. But this seems to be, it's pretty consistent with what other districts and other entities have that are similar to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Eileen? Okay, I will make a motion to approve. Yeah, go ahead. Val?
I was just going to make the motion.
Well, go
No
ahead and make the
questions.
motion. Go ahead and do it.
Okay. I move that we approve the district's Fidelity insurance coverage limits for the 2022-2023 fiscal year to maintain at $1 million.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, Val,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
and and Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Eileen, the school meal prices, you're up again.
Jeez, Ruth.
Got a couple more.
You're gonna be a busy girl tonight.
So tonight we have the 22-23 school meal prices. They're in the packet. It shows what the proposed meal price is for 22-23. And it also compares it to what our current meal prices are and what the current meal prices are for other local comparable districts. The proposal would increase of 25 cents per breakfast and 15 cents for lunch increase is compared to this current year. And it would maintain Forest Grove School District below the comparable districts for this current year for breakfast, and would maintain with our comparable districts about average or close to average for lunch prices. And that's comparing what the proposal is for next year against this year's rates. Cornelius, Echo Shaw, Fernhill, and Joseph Dale would all remain CEP schools, so they would get free breakfast and lunch going into next year. And then we will be utilizing 22-23 as the first year or the base year in provision 2 to do a reset for that. So all breakfast district wide will remain free for this upcoming school year. We do have to set the breakfast rates, even if they are free, so that we have rates for those students that want second breakfast. So we do have to set those rates at least. And we did not increase rates last year. Just the year prior was the last time we did that. So 2021. So at this time, administration is recommending the meal prices for 22-23 as presented.
I have a question for you, Eileen. So does this mean that for the next 3 years, breakfast and lunch will be free for the students, or just for the next 2 years?
No, so CEP, these schools are designated as CEP schools. There's, I believe, 2 of them that are on one cycle and 2 that are on another cycle. I'd have to get the years on the expiration, but they do for a certain period. This next 22-23 school year, all 4 of those schools would remain free breakfast and lunch. Provision 2, we are up with our free breakfast for provision 2 district wide. So what we're looking at doing is the year 1 base, and we'll do a big free and reduced application push to see if we can get enough to see how much of our community qualifies for free and reduced, to see if we can hit that mark to be able to continue to offer provision 2 for an additional 3 years. So it'll be our baseline year for breakfast.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Eileen? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move that we increase the meal prices for the 2022-23 school year as presented above.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All right, Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. The motion passes. All right, the next one is Microsoft licensure renewal for 2021-2022. And this is, who is this? Enrique? Is this Enrique doing this one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, before you today is the action item for the renewal of our Microsoft licensing. We need to purchase our Microsoft licensing to cover operating system licenses for computers and servers, Office Suite licenses, client access licenses, and security suite licenses. This is being purchased through the OETC, who has the Microsoft RFP contract. So we're purchasing under that. And so our recommendation to the board is that they approve the purchase of our Microsoft licensing renewal for 2022-2023 from the OETC.
Any questions? No? Everybody's okay? All right, do I have a motion for this, for the Microsoft licensure renewal?
I move that we approve the Microsoft licensure renewal for 2022 and 2023.
Do I have a
I'll second,
second?
Kate.
Okay, further discussion? All right, Val,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Thank you. The next one is Tom McCall Upper Elementary School HVAC replacement. Eileen, is that you?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So today we have 2 more contracts for HVAC equipment replacements. These 2 contracts would replace condensing and air handling unit coils for 7 of our units between the two Tomahawk buildings, Tomahawk East and Tomahawk West. The Tomahawk East contract is for $109,000 and the Tomahawk West contract is $119,886. Both of them combined for $228,886. These contracts are utilizing our Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement and the contractor will be Carrier. They will be utilizing ESSER HVAC capital improvements budget that was presented to the board back in February. Our hope is to have these projects completed late summer or early fall, kind of depending on timing of equipment and the delivery of that equipment. So at this point, administration is recommending the board to approve the 2 contracts with Carrier utilizing our Sourcewell Purchasing Agreement and ESSER funds. And then Mark Hughes is here also if you have more questions.
So,
I have a question.
Okay.
Kind of for Mark. I know Eileen alluded to, getting the parts here and getting everything here to get it done. I don't know, Mark, do you have a sense of whether it's going to be able to be done over the summer before school starts or not?
Well, Mark, that is the golden great
Right.
question.
Right.
And I am really happy that we have until September of 2024 to make sure it gets done. I have some equipment in the warehouse that we ordered 2 weeks ago, and others I was told that we'll get in December.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. I just curious. Yeah.
yeah, and
I understand.
until we order them, we won't know. And so
Yeah.
tomorrow, maybe I'll have better information.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just
Thank
curious.
you.
any further questions for Mark or Eileen? All right, I will move to award the contracts for HVAC upgrades at Tomahawk Upper Elementary School to the Carrier utilizing the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement for $109,000 and $119,886 using the district's ESSER grant funds. Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also, and the motion passes. Okay,
Can
I
I
can-
ask one question, Kate, before
Sure.
we move on to maybe the last 2 action items or 3?
okay, sure.
And it's just maybe for Dave or Eileen. Are we, I don't know, at the next meeting, do we approve the fee schedules for the 2022-23 school year? Will those come up at the next meeting or not?
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know, go to Kathy. She'll know. And if she doesn't know, she'll know someone who does know. So
Yeah.
what would we do without you? All right, the next item on the agenda, we have a busy night here. The superintendent evaluation letter. So I will read the letter. I sat down with Dave and went over this. To Superintendent Dave Parker, as we conclude the school year of 2021-22, the Forest Grove School Board of Directors appreciates Dave's compassion, communication, and leadership skills throughout the pandemic that began in March 2020 and continued through 2022. Dave, the challenges of following the mandates by the state and the health department, along with finding the right balance for the safety and well-being of our students and staff, have been accomplished with your thoughtfulness and your grace. The board wishes to extend a big thank you to you and also to our staff. Once a year, the Forest School Board Directors review and complete your evaluation by including input from the Correggio survey and the individual completion of the OSBA evaluation forms by each board member. Dave, you continue to receive high ratings in policy and governance, relations, resource management, ethical leadership, and labor relations in both the Correggio survey and the school board members' individual evaluations. Your communication skills have been excellent throughout the year to the staff, to the parents, and the community by your weekly Friday memo. As the pandemic evolved during the year, you demonstrated through your ethical leadership your continued focus on what was best and right for our students and staff. The board strongly believes that there is an urgency for the organization to increase a comprehensive, rigorous, and coherent curriculum program. The district as a whole must focus on improving instruction, provide clear expectation of instruction, and have data to support where we are currently and our vision and implementation of where we will be in a year. The board has supported and funded resources in the areas of curriculum for the last 4 years and believe that with your leadership, Dave, and with our staff, that we should be able to make strong gains in 2022, 2023. The board recognizes, Dave, your outstanding leadership and resource management abilities, especially during the pandemic. Your continued communication skills and commitment to our families, students, and staff have been exceptional. You are so appreciative to have you as our superintendent and will negotiate compensation after negotiations with our classified and certified staff. Again, the board wishes to thank you. Respectfully submitted. And I'll just have one comment to add because Narci's not here and I thought it was very sweet. She said, Dave, you're a beautiful human being, and we agree.
I don't think I can do much better than that right there. I want to thank the board for its comments around my strengths and feedback on where we need to improve. I think that's, I've spent the last couple of weeks thinking specifically about that and kind of where we need to go next year. Well, the last couple of years have been challenging. We're already getting organized for next year. You know, from February on, school has felt more normal. And coming into the fall, I think we have our best chance at starting to really make some inroads on where students are at, literacy, math, science, social studies, and starting to push on that. Thanks for your hard work and working with and collaborating with me with this district. I'm very appreciative of you and our collaboration. You don't have to look very far from where we are in Forest Grove to see some places whose boards and superintendents are not collaborating and working together. And so I just appreciate the work that we've done. And like I said, I'm committed to improving. So thank you.
Thank you. So I need a motion here. So who would like to make a motion?
I'll move. I'll move that the board approve the 1 year, or I'm sorry, I'm on when the board approve the superintendent evaluation as presented by Chair Gandusky.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further comments? All right, we'll have a roll call vote. Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. Motion passes. The next item is the Assistant Superintendent, Chief Academic Officer, and Dave, you're going to present that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tonight, I'm bringing to you an extension for John O'Neill's current contract. We have a little bit of an issue in that his current contract expires on June 30th and doesn't move forward yet. I'm not going to negotiate anyone's contract, mine, the administrators, confidential, until we get a reading on where the licensed and classified are going to be. So I'm proposing a 1 year addendum to his current contract. Everything stays the same, and we've got a reopener built into it that says once we finish the licensed and classified negotiations, then we'll come back and look at what this contract needs to be. So that's what the proposal is just an extension while we figure out where we're going to end up here with our other groups.
Thank you. Any questions for Dave? Okay, I will move to approve the 1 year contract addendum for the Assistant Superintendent, Chief Academic Officer as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All right, all those in favor, Mark,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also. All right, let's move on to future action items, the bond levy.
Hey, okay, I'm gonna share a screen here. Let me. Okay. Good evening. I want to take just a moment and introduce the folks that we have here tonight who are kind of going to be involved in presenting this. I want to introduce Howard Sullivan, who is one of our members of our Bond Development Committee. I've got Karina Ruiz, who is one of the principals at BRIC and has kind of led our Bond Development Committee. Down, at least in my lower left, we have Jeremy Wright with Wright Public Affairs, who has been working with us and will be working with us around the bond. We've got Eileen, who's here to present some information around both demographics and bonds. And tonight is kind of the culmination of several years of work. And so it started actually before I came to the district in 2017, as we began to, you ran your first long-range facility plan project. And as I came into the district, things began to change and we weren't quite ready for the bond. And so last year, we started in 2021, we started another long-range facility plan committee to kind of evolve and update the numbers. Last July, you passed that long-range facility plan. And then we partnered with BRIC this year. We started with approximately 10 stakeholder engagement sessions that were scheduled in early January and February, where we went out and began to talk to our community about how they were impacted by our buildings. How did they feel about our facilities, and start to get some feedback from that. From there, we sat a bond development committee, and tonight is kind of the culmination of that work. What the Bond Development Committee did, they reviewed information related to the district's educational vision, enrollment trends, facility needs. They reviewed some of the public polling. Wright Public Affairs worked with another company to go out and do some public polling for us so we can understand kind of how people felt about the bond. We developed a recommended bond package that we're here to present tonight. There were basically 5 meetings actually, 4, that we went through. And so that has been kind of our pathway to bring you this current package. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy to talk to you a little bit about what the polling has said about this bond package.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me tonight. As I said, Jeremy Wright, Wright Public Affairs. We work with school districts and public agencies around the Northwest on bonds, levies, other measures to help fund critical programs for our communities. And one of the things we do, and I've been working with Forest Grove School District, is do quantitative polling of your community to get a pulse of where people are at. And to put the poll program into context for you for overall process, we typically working with school districts during this phase of a bond development, want to get a sense of what is the community's priorities are for a bond program, what items on that the Bond Development Committee or the school district is considering, what items are higher priority, lower priority for the community. And then what is their price point sensitivity? What do they want to pay for? Later on, we'll do a poll that is more focused on how do we communicate, what messages around those key packages, and where we what's the lay of the land and where you are going into the election season. That'll be later this summer. But the purpose of this poll was really to give the committee some tools and understand beyond just the anecdotal, but the actual community attitudes towards the things that they were considering. So real quick methodology. We called 400 likely voters, people who are most likely, we know based on their history and their responses, to vote in this November election. It was a voter file sample, so we pulled it from the voter file and used landlines and cell phones, more cell phones and landlines these days to connect people. We conducted these interviews, live interviews, April 26th to 28th. So to understand, polling is a snapshot in time. This is to give you a sense of where those priorities are. But as we know, since April 26th, things have changed in our community, whether it's economic or safety and security issues. So please keep that in mind. The margin of error, this is just all polls have a margin of error. This is about 4.9%. And throughout this report, we refer to younger and older voters. Younger voters are under age 50 and older voters are 50 and up. This is a diminished slide deck of a much larger presentation we gave to the Bond Development Committee. So what we did is we went through a battery of items that the Bond Development Committee was considering that were on the list. And some of those include safety issues, stuff, and what you see here is people's favorability. What were people ranking as a high priority? So the highest ranking item was structural safety, so seismic, be prepared for the next major earthquake. The next would be fire emergency systems, so update fire systems, fire doors, upgraded fire alarm systems, to smooth evacuation. So voters are really focused, even pre-Texas, on safety, not so much security but more safety issues like fire and seismic. Pre-K tested very well. Adding classroom space needed to allow for the expansion of pre-K programs. That's a very popular item. And then the security portion of safety, I would say, again, tested, top tier cameras, two-way emergency radios, classroom door locks, secure glass, and other things, monitoring people entering and getting in and out of schools. Modernizing our classrooms, conduct flexible learning spaces, and maximize existing space at schools. People really like that idea of a more modern, flexible environment. Physical education, this is interesting. We're seeing this rise higher in all of our clients around the state of Oregon. Mainly, I think part of it is that it's new requirements mandated by the state of Oregon, but also kind of voter awareness around the importance of movement for children. I think the pandemic kind of brought that into focus. And then job training, modernized, at the high school, career and vocational training, careers in mechatronics, early childhood ed. People really like the idea of modernizing in vocational ed as part of the overall offerings at your senior high school, senior level. For the next slide. And then the second tier, and we call these second tier, but I want to point out that there is nothing here that's a bad item that the Bond Development Committee just had to throw out, right? There was nothing that was fatal. This is just slightly less popular, but still very popular. So for instance, technology is 62%, and the next previous page was like 64%. So it's not like some huge differences. So it's some of these second tier items that we asked them about: technology, expanding special ed, making up ADA upgrades. These are still pretty popular in the 60s. Conducting just basic repairs, of deferred maintenance or ongoing maintenance, or large scale replacements of HVAC and roofs and those things. Health, addressing student mental health by adding de-escalation and self-regulation space for students. Still popular. Accountable, increasing energy. We say accountability, but it's really increasing energy efficiency to save money. Safety, again, making additional outdoor safety improvements, to track and field and playgrounds. Those always tend to test a little lower. Athletic facilities as well, updating the Neil Armstrong turf. This is very common. We see it all the time that, people don't quite, if they're asked the difference, had to choose between safety, security, or vocational tech, and a covered play area or a turf field, they're always going to pick the former. So those are the items we tested, just to give the Bond Development Committee some sense of what projects the bond was, the community's attitude towards these projects. Okay. Earlier, also Dave sent out a memo that covered the whole poll we did, and happy to answer any questions about that. And
next, we have Eileen talking a little bit about facility needs and enrollment.
Okay. So in the fall, we completed an updated review of our deferred maintenance plan. And overall, between the districts, all of our schools and all of our facilities, there's about $44.9 million in deferred maintenance needs or projects that have been identified. It does include everything from mechanical, electrical, building envelope needs, HVAC, grounds, parking, playground equipment, fire, life safety. So all of those deferred maintenance needs of equipment and items that are in place today. To the right, you can see the entire district's deferred maintenance needs by major classification. So the building envelope and mechanical, electrical and plumbing, those are our two largest categories of what has been identified. And then on the left, you can see the deferred maintenance need by building and by those major classifications. Cornelius Elementary School is the largest elementary school that has the most need. And then when we're looking at our larger buildings, the Forest Grove High School and Neil Armstrong, those ones have a little bit more of a need for deferred maintenance as compared to the size. That was, and if we're looking at the capacity versus enrollment projections, a little bit briefly, both of these things is the facilities needs and then the capacity and enrollment projections were talked a little bit more in the bond development committee, but this one in particular was talked more so in the last board meeting that we had. We did a capacity versus enrollment projection. And just a quick review of this, the Portland State University's demographic study and capacity overview utilizes information, historical information. It utilizes things that are going on in the community, building permits that are out and projected building in our community, and goes out for 10 years. In looking at that, our next 10 years, if we're looking at building capacity with portable capacity, that's the dotted line on top for both Cornelius, Harvey Clark, and Joseph Gale. We have or will have enough capacity in all of those buildings with that portable capacity. But when you look at our permanent capacity, which is the solid line for each building, Cornelius Elementary School is the one that is going to need the most support at the end of the 10 years. By taking out that portable capacity. Looking at East Side versus West Side, Cornelius and Echo Shaw are going to be the two that are currently pretty much at capacity and will maintain at or above capacity by the end of the next 10 years.
Can I ask a question, Eileen?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the enrollment right now, I was looking at the enrollment of Dilly and Harvey Clark and a couple of the other schools at the kindergarten level and first grade and second grade level. I mean, they're great. The numbers are really low, but could you do, a boundary change so that you could offset some of the kids at Cornelius to some of the other schools, or just get really complicated?
Some of it you can. In looking at capacity in buildings, if we're looking at Harvey Clark and Joseph Gale, they do have a little bit of capacity right now. Harvey Clark looks like it'll be right at capacity at the end of the 10 years. But when we're looking at capacity for this, we're assuming if all of the kids are in the right place at the right, they're in the same grade buckets. And so you have 25 kids per classroom across the board. But if you have one lower and one higher, and so you have to have, it's easier if you're below capacity. So you have additional space for some of those bubbles that come through or those needs. So you don't want to plan for all of our buildings being 100% at capacity. Does that make sense?
I guess. Just go ahead and go further.
This next slide shows our secondary building capacity. So Tom McCall, Neil Armstrong, and the high school in the same format. You can see our current capacity against the next 10 years, 10 years out from now. And all three of those buildings will maintain with sufficient capacity with these 10-year enrollment projections. Okay, and move on a little bit to bond financing and the bond package. Oh, sorry, this is not mine. I'm jumping ahead.
I will say I wanted to go back to Kate's question, which is around, I think we're going to have some boundary adjustments going on no matter what we do. So some of that's going to happen, but you still on the east side, you're going to see a much larger, and right now Cornelius is only handling the capacity that it has because of the mobile classrooms that it has. So that's kind of the biggest issue. With the growth going around there, we're probably going to have to do some adjustments anyway. Yeah. Bond package. Next, I'd like to introduce Howard Sullivan, who's one of our bond development committee members, to kind of talk about the different things that the bond committee ended up recommending.
So looking at this, you can see that under the bond, it's unanimous consensus was reached the following $145 million bond package. And the district is also applying for an Oregon School Capital Improvement Matching Grant. So you can see at the very bottom, let me go there. If we get that grant, pointing down here to 6.7, then that $6.7 million out of the $145 million would be able to be used for other projects that are not covered in the main bond. We went through a series of exercises to get to this, but basically we're asking for a replacement of Cornelius Elementary School with a build out of 500 students, district-wide technology upgrades, district-wide security upgrades, address a portion of the identified deferred maintenance, about 28.3 million, provide capacity to implement a pre-K program, construct space for a new high school program for students requiring an alternative environment, seismic improvements, improve and expand CET options. Oh,
hang on.
Add 2 additional PE stations at Neil Armstrong and modernize existing space and redesign the entry space at Neil Armstrong. I was we went through this pretty tight. The people from BRIC did an outstanding job leading us. When we voted at the end, we did the fist of 5. So those of you that were teaching in the Forest Grove School District, when we had that process, I will say that everybody voted 5 and there were 2 4s. So there were no 3s, 2s, 1s, or 0s. Any questions?
I wanted to introduce Alejandro Alvarez, just logged on. He was another one of our bond development committee members. Just wanted to highlight, I know you're just coming on, but I don't know if you have any comments or anything. We're just talking about how we got to these elements and what Howard just went through, kind of what we recommended.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Next, questions on kind of the listing.
I have a question. We're gonna spend $3 million on Neil Armstrong, and so what do you think about the future of that building and how long with that building? I mean, my thought along, and I know the committee looked at everything, but it just, to me, that building just doesn't work. And it doesn't work, just the design of it. And what is the life of that building? You know, I guess those would be my 2 questions.
So that discussion did come up in the bond development committee. I mean, the whole issue around NAMS. One of the things about NAMS is while the design may be problematic, it's actually in pretty good shape. And so it's leased, and this bond right here, we're at least 5 years, six years away from the next bond. So we still have to run NAMs, and these recommendations are to, we still have to work it. So even though, yes, it's $3 million to provide the extra PE stations and redesign the entry, we're still going to be using that as a middle school for a while. I see Karina kind of moving around. I don't know. Yeah, but that's what that thinking is no matter what, we're still 5 to 7 years away from our next bond. Great question.
So I have a question also, Dave. You know, I think it was Mr. Wright that was presenting on how some of the items polled.
Yeah.
And my question is kind of around, one question was, or maybe just a comment, and it was, I was sad to see that the polling on doing some outdoors improvement at Neil Armstrong was so low. I think it was 57% or something like that for the track and a better athletic field. So that, and I wish that would have been higher, but, and then my other question is on here, I think it's 16 million for I think it's for high school program for students requiring alternative ed. I don't know if that's only high school students or if that's high school, middle school students. I guess that's my question.
Yeah.
Maybe that's nothing that the committee, you know, maybe that's not in their purview. I don't know, but maybe it's a question more for us.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at there. So that wasn't really a question that came up as far as what grade levels would be served there, besides finding a way to make sure our most at-risk kids get what they need to make it across the stage.
Okay.
I do know the issue that you're talking about is something that we're thinking about, which is we also have kids at the middle school level who could use an alternative experience.
Right.
We're working, we've already pushed some FTE for next year to start some of this inside the school. And I think we could begin to talk a little bit about like how this, having this new space allows a lot of freedom.
Okay.
I mean, again, with Tim Graham coming into the district to kind of design this, we really, he'll build a lot of different ways that kids can be successful there. I think we can still have some conversations about how are we getting alternative experiences to middle school kids.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in that one, and continuing that conversation because I think that's needed.
Yep.
And the only thing that I would add to that, if I can, Dave, is that this gives us the opportunity to really kind of think forward as well in terms of whoever's designing that space can really look at, you know, how can you design it so that it ultimately meets the needs of the program as it expands, right? Whether that is by expanding the age of the students that are there, by expanding the number of students that are served there, by expanding the ways in which students, you know, kind of both synchronous and asynchronous learning opportunities. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity to look intentionally at how to provide a pathway to graduation for students who are struggling with your traditional pathways. And then how can you intentionally design a building to support that?
I need some clarification. So when we were doing this about the alternative school, I thought we're going to build a building.
That's what this is.
That's what this is.
Okay, because the way it's worded, it's sort of misleading. Because I was thinking that we were going to look at that land that's on the other side of David Hill Road, correct?
Yeah. I think part of our problem here is that it's really, we have a lot of education to do on what we mean. And so we're trying to construct this in a way that would speak to what we're thinking. And just, we were struggling with describing it.
So is 16 million enough money to build a new building?
Yes.
That's enough.
Yeah, the Cornerstone is kind of who priced this out for us. So yes,
Okay.
although
Okay, because
inflation
when I
is,
look, yeah. When I think of all the things that you need, and I'm looking at, I know that Cornelius is 500 students at 62 million. And then I'm looking at, we were talking tentatively about 150 students at the alternative school for 16 million. I believe you. I'm just asking the question, yeah, okay.
Howard.
I just want to make one final comment. I want to compliment Karina. She created an experience where everybody was safe. Everybody had an opportunity to share their concerns. And I think Alejandro would agree with me. I don't think anybody held back. Everybody was free to express their points. And no one was worried about if they made a comment that was out of line, because everybody was in a safe spot. And so I just want to, pass on my appreciation to Karina and Brick for the way they conducted our meetings.
Oh, thank you, Howard. It was a pleasure. Your community was actually very aligned from the beginning in terms of what you wanted and how you were. Where you had some discord, I think you had a good opportunity to talk to one another about that and kind of resolve and build consensus. So it was wonderful working with you all. You guys were great.
Alejandro.
I would like to also echo that. And one of the things that I really appreciated about this process was that we had community members from all over. And I was really impressed by the wealth of knowledge and experience that we had in the room every time we had a meeting. And just, I got to know some people who had been around Forest Grove and in the school district for many, many, many years, possibly before I was born. But it was interesting to have that perspective and that history, because me, as kind of being new to Forest Grove, or newer compared to others, I didn't have that historical aspect of some of our schools, some of our buildings, the grounds and all that stuff. And I got to hear how Forest Grove High School grounds was redone and the people that were there to redo that. And just being able to have that openness, I think, was great. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was exercises in which we had to pick between different items. And we had to take a stance on one project or another. And we were given the basically time for us to explain why we picked one or the other. And it was interesting to see just how people were divided, and we got an opportunity to present our case. And in some cases we're like, that's a good point. Maybe I should be over there because they brought up a good point, or I'm in the middle now. I'm torn between these two different reasons why we should or shouldn't do this. So I think that was a really, really great exercise for the whole team to be able to go through and feel like we were equal and we had equal say in this decision, no matter who you were in the room.
I know Eileen's going to talk about bonding finances in a second, but just wanted to give another opportunity if there's any more questions about kind of how we got to these areas.
I just my comment is I want to thank the committee for working on this and putting this together and bringing this to us. So I thanks for doing that.
Okay. Bond financing, Eileen.
Right. So this graph shows what our historical levy rates have been for our bonds since 2002 to now. You can see the remaining payments. The dark gray is what's actual, and then the colors is what's left and remaining outstanding debt for us. Most of that is all our 2010 bond that passed for $65.3 million. It's where the district was able to replace Joseph Gale Elementary School, add on to the high school's athletics, science fields, athletic fields, And then they were also able to make significant upgrades and investments to technology and security and deferred maintenance district-wide. That was a 20-year bond that included a 10-year step down. The rate is anticipated to sunset off in 2031. Looking at our historical rates from 2002 all the way up through current, our property tax levy was around that $3 range, $3 per thousand assessed value range. It did peak in 2011 at $3.52 per thousand, where currently we are down to about $2.15 per thousand. They've been able to drop over the last several years, both based on old debt sunsetting and increased values increased home values across our community. That's good. This slide looks at where we are in comparison to our other local districts in our community. The first, the graph on the right shows our school bond rate as compared to other districts. And you can see, increase this. Sherwood is just over $3.50 per thousand. And then Sheridan, McVinnville, and Dayton are around the $2.50. And then we are next in line for our current bond rates. And that's how we are for our school district bond rates. Over to the left is what our permanent rate is. So that's the operating rate for the district, and that doesn't change. It stays consistent year over year, plus any local option levy for those same districts, plus bond rates. And so you can see where we land at our combined rate at $7 per thousand. This graph shows what this proposed package would do to our bond rate. With a $145 million bond, it would increase our property taxes by about $2 per thousand and bring it up to about $4.17 per thousand with a 10-year step down. So we would want to continue to maintain that 10-year step down.
Questions around bond and bond financing? Next steps. So here's kind of where this is headed. At the next June 27th meeting, the board will vote on a board resolution authorizing the district to proceed with the bond. We're continuing to investigate some of the bond financing parts of this, trying to figure out exactly what we can do there. There is a political action committee that is forming up. This is a set of parents and community members who will be kind of leading this effort after the bond resolution is actually passed. We'll push out another round of community polling near the end of July, the beginning of August, that will really test. Before I say this, Jeremy, so our next set of polling will kind of test what?
So we will, in the next round of polling, we will test the exact proposed language. So when you put something on the ballot with a bond, you have a 10-word caption, a 20-word question. And so we'll test exactly that. So that's what the voters would see. We'll also test a real world series of, elevator pitch, 30-second explanation, test price point sensitivity again, and then some messaging components about how to talk about these different packages. If someone, in the discussion here is, how do we best, talk about something like the alternative high school and that building and that program, that type of stuff to help us better communicate to the public what lands. But the most important thing in that is going to be, okay, where are we? What's what's the snapshot? What's the head-to-head top lines in that goal?
Right. So those are kind of the main three next steps, but we've got, I know it's really hard to read, but it'll be in your packet. The basic gist is we're way down here under June, which is the Bond Development Committee presents the bond package recommendations to the school board. So that's kind of tonight what's happening. We've got to get rolling on the Awesome Grant, which is the matching grant by the state. In July sometime, we'll push in our application and we'll get notice, I believe, before you go out to actually approve the final bond thing, is whether or not we're getting this matching grant. Then the real big one is somewhere in August and early September, we've got this deadline for the bond title that Jeremy's already working on us about, because that's another very, very important deadline for us moving forward. But we put this in your packet just so that you can see kind of where the set of deadlines are. And we're already starting to work on the messaging and how do we begin to educate our community about what our needs are. And that's kind of our next steps. I would open it up to Karina and Jeremy and anybody if we have any other things.
I think you covered it really well, David. I mean, I think at this point, this is more kind of informational to let you know kind of how we got to the recommendation that the Bond Development Committee arrived at. And the next step is you deciding whether or not that you want to pull this forward as something to put on the ballot. As Dave said, they'll be doing a little bit more work to kind of look at the details of the financing plan. And that will be brought to you along with the resolution on the 27th of June. So from our perspective, again, I just want to thank you for having us and really express incredible gratitude and appreciation for not just the Bond Development Committee, which was fantastic, but your district staff. Your district staff has been incredible to work with. They're thinking about the right stuff. They are well connected in terms of making sure that we centered the voices of what I like to say are folks that are typically closest to the problem and furthest from solution. So it was really incredible to partner with them to bring this work forward. So thank you for that.
Questions from the board?
When would this be submitted? Their application for the election board, for the election, is there a due date?
Yes, so the due date is August 16th. 15th, yeah. And it's a two-step process. So you have your authorization here in late June, but the district won't actually submit the paperwork until later this summer. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Waiting for the Awesome Grant is one of those, July 15th. And then and once you submit, there's a 2-week public comment period where people can comment on the proposed language that would be on the ballot. And then there's a second form, SCL 803, which the district submits to instruct the county to actually place the bond on the ballot. And you get a ballot measure number at that point. And that's a little bit after Labor Day.
Thank you.
I just have a question for Jeremy also. And I think you said this, and I think I missed it, but you're going to be polling. Was it in the summer?
Yeah.
Sort of the price point. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, right? I mean, the price point, right? And so is that going to happen in July or August, or when does that happen?
Yeah, the last week of July is what we're shooting for. So we'll have that information before that August 15th deadline. And we did poll on the price point. I didn't present it tonight because our focus was on the package, but Dave included a memo on Friday from the polling memo. You take a look at that. You could see tested $1. We tested a couple different levels.
Okay, got it.
You'll see kind of where the responses were there. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves. That's going to be our challenge, right? So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the team? Thank you very much. It was very informative and I really appreciate it. And I know the board does. We will move on to the literacy adoption now. And that's Elena.
Yes. Hi, guys. Good to see everyone. I'm here to bring you an update on where the literacy committee is at and what they brought forth for a recommendation for adoption. I think last time I brought an update to you, we kind of talked through the research and just the learning that the committee was doing throughout the first part of the year before they even saw curriculums or evaluated curriculums, and we just talked through that process. So we've finished the pilot and we have evaluated. So I'm gonna move forth with talking a little bit about the pilot window and what we learned from the experience with the curriculum, and then the recommendations for adoption. And also our team is here. So Joelle, who is our 3 through 6 ELD coach. Laura is our, as of a couple days ago, our dual language TOSA, and previously our ELD coach for pre-K 2. And then Tisa is here as well. Tisa is traditionally our 3-6 literacy coach, but she's covering pre-K through 6 right now while Heather is out. She just had a baby. So she'll be back with us hopefully next time when we get together. All right, and they actually, not just being part of the committee work, but most of them piloted the materials in some shape or another. So they have a lot of information if you have questions about the actual curriculum itself. All right, so I am going to share my screen here. So the pilot. So just as a reminder, our pilot window started March 28th and went through May 23rd. So technically we ended at the end of May, but many of the teachers on the committee decided to continue piloting the materials and just finish the year out. So the 3 curriculums that we piloted for pre-K was Frog Street, English and Spanish dual language, Amplify, K6 English, and K5 Spanish. And the reason why we did not pilot 6th grade Spanish is because Amplify does not offer 6th grade or up Spanish curriculum. And then we piloted Benchmark for 6th grade Spanish dual language.
Elena, can we make that larger?
Oh yeah, is it not? Sorry.
Thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so throughout our pilot, we did a lot of stuff. And so some of the things that our teachers and our support staff worked in partnership with is that we offered initial trainings on all of the curriculums. It was more condensed than what our teachers will see in August, but they were trained with publishers, Amplify, Frog Street, and Benchmark. We also provided additional planning and prep time within grade level teams, and our coaches were really instrumental in providing that ongoing support for our pilot teachers. We provided not only additional curriculums, like ordering continuous materials as we just kind of learned what teachers needed, but we also provided specific prep materials once we got into the units and we learned more what they would need that they didn't already have. We also gave surveys to our teachers at the 4-week and 9-week window. We offered bi-weekly Q&As in partnership. Some of them were with our literacy team, and then some of them were in partnership with Amplify and Frog Street. And then lastly, what was really invaluable is we went over, not all, but a good majority of our pilot teachers went over to Newburgh with us in different observation groups, and we observed Newburgh using and teaching Amplify. They just recently, I believe, adopted the most recent version, but they had Amplify as their previous adoption as well. So they've been teaching it for 7 years now. So we were able to learn a lot from them as far as what's been going well and then what they had to adjust and do differently. All right, so some of the shifts. So as we were doing our research and learning together, even going into the evaluations, we knew that the committee knew that we were looking for some key components to a new curriculum based on what we know about how the brain best acquires language. So one of them is that we know that we need to have a curriculum that has a design that's based on the science of reading. We know that we need explicit systematic phonics coupled with a strong knowledge base oral language component. And so we were really looking for in a curriculum, one that that provides very explicit and systematic phonics, especially when we're talking about how we teach kids to read and identify those initial sounds. And so when we talk about 3Qing, which is more of a traditional reading instructional model where you're teaching kids how to identify sounds and associate them with letters, but you're also encouraging them to look at the picture or look at the sentence or think about what the context clues are. What is the sentence talking about? What, maybe what could they be saying? Or if you don't know a word, let's look at the picture and let's try and sound out the first letter, the second letter, ah. Okay, what's the third letter? Okay, we'll look at the picture. Oh, it's a picture of a cat, right? Cat. That's implicit reading instruction. And we know we don't want that. That's not how the brain best acquires to learn to read. So we really needed to look for a shift where we are explicitly identifying the word recognition components. The second is that we are moving from a shift from, can you see that with it being bigger? I don't think you can, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to get out for just a minute.
Yep.
Can I get out of it? Sorry, guys. Hold on one sec. Well, it's not going to let me. We're moving from predictable text to decodable text. So this was a really important one as well, because we don't currently have this in our curriculum that we've been using up to this point. And that is that when a kiddo sees a decodable text, they need to have been taught previously explicitly all the sounds and the letters and the words that they encounter in the text. Anything other than that, they're being asked to essentially guess or use context or structure clues in order to read the words. So this was very important for us to find a curriculum that included 100% decodable text. The second or the third thing that we're looking for in a curriculum, we needed to look at a curriculum that went from, or basically offered core instruction on grade level for all students. And we're moving from leveled readers and small group during core instruction. And the reason why, we do have kids and we're seeing more and more, especially from the pandemic, that are below grade level in reading. And we know that we have to provide instruction and reading at their level. However, we will never be able to move kids and tip the scales and get them towards grade level if we don't put a significant focus on also being exposed to grade level text and grade level thinking and grade level knowledge. And that's a big shift also in what we have been currently doing in our curriculum and what we're moving towards. But we know from best practice in the research that that is what our kids need. We're also making a shift in this curriculum from a trade book skill of the week model to a rich program that builds knowledge throughout the grades. This is a knowledge-based curriculum. So what that means is that the knowledge components, topics of study, spiral throughout the grade levels. So for example, if in kindergarten, there are units on plants, then by the time they get to third grade, there's units on ecology. And by the time they get to fourth grade, it's geology. But every unit has been very intentionally and systematically built so that the ideas and the vocabulary and the content builds from one grade to the next. It spirals. So essentially, kids, as they advance throughout their grade level, should be able to make deeper meaning and build deeper comprehension than if it was a curriculum that was very independent or silos of topics where it's one topic and then is never revisited again, or another topic or idea and then is never revisited again. That's not a really great way for our kids to be able to build just deeper and more enriching comprehension overall. Okay, I'm going to go back into slideshow mode so that you can see this better. So we asked on the feedback on the survey, the most recent survey, we asked our teachers a lot of questions, and I couldn't include them all, but some of them were this question such as how cognitively engaged are your students in the content? And you can see that 95% of our pilot teachers reported that they saw strong cognitive engagement with the curriculum. We also asked, do you see in the curriculum design the best practice research-based introducing explicit teaching of sounds before letter names? And we had, I think overwhelmingly, those that had worked with the curriculum enough felt very strongly. We didn't have anyone that disagreed on that. Those that were unsure, I think as we talked through and debriefed this, it was those that just hadn't encountered those parts yet or didn't teach at those grade levels. We also asked the question, the ease or, what ability do you see for us to integrate or embed our GLAD and CM strategies into the curriculum? And I know Laura and Joelle were also really instrumental in this as they observed teachers piloting the curriculum. And then as they piloted themselves, they had that language learner lens on all the time, thinking, how well can we integrate GLAD and CM with this curriculum? And overwhelmingly, we found that 75%-ish, give or take, felt that we would be able to integrate this fairly well. Evaluating language learners and how they are adjusting to the high level of rigor. We had 78% combined said either they are accessing it just the same as our non-language learners, second language learners, or it's challenging, but they are able to access it with scaffolds. So this was very important for us as well. It's a shift in instructional practice. And so we want to be very mindful of the kind of supports that we're providing our students that are learning another language. Read alouds consist of engaging content that is filled with rich vocabulary, 90%. And this was very important as well. You'll see read alouds and just overall oral language and vocabulary is a big component of this curriculum. And that is because we know that our brains are naturally built to make meaning and comprehend from oral language much earlier than we start to make meaning from reading. So our listening comprehension outpaces our reading comprehension until we get to the age of 13. And then once we reach the age of 13, our brains, what we listen and understand, we actually catch up to how we can actually read and make meaning from. So it's very interesting. And you see that though in the curriculum, that research reflects the real priority of those read alouds in that instructional design. We also then asked, this is a knowledge-based curriculum. So hold on one second, let me change this. One of the assets of the knowledge-based curriculum is that kids are getting grade level instruction, and how do you see comprehension? And we had an overwhelming majority, almost 78% said, yes, my students are showing an increase in comprehension, even if below grade level in reading skills. And that was telling, actually, because we know, I think we all know that we have kids that are reading below grade level. And right now we're seeing more than we ever have. And so it really is a true, honest question around, okay, well, if we are focusing on grade level core for all kids, but we have kids that aren't meeting at grade level, how do we know that they're still going to be able to access the content and make meaning from what they're learning? And we saw that they definitely overwhelmingly were. We also asked teachers, how did you feel the TE provided explicit instruction for you as the teacher? So basically, were you able to follow it? Did it give you the supports you needed? But was it enough that you felt like it supported your instruction, but gave you the flexibility to make the instruction your own? And we had a good, strong turnout, about 80%. Said that they felt strongly that it allowed them the flexibility while giving them the supports that they needed. Okay, so I'm going to, here we go. The committee decision. So when we came back together at the end of the pilot, we decided very early on that the committee would be evaluating using their a condensed rubric, and that we would be doing some consensus making. And so we used a FIST to 5 model. And so if you're familiar with it, 0 is I am not in support of this curriculum for adoption. 1 is I am not in full support of the curriculum and still need to discuss certain concerns. 2 is I have reservations that I'd like to discuss, but overall I'm in favor. 3 is I'm okay with this and I feel comfortable going forward. 4 is I'm in support of this curriculum. 5, 100%, hands down, I'm in total agreement. So this is what we used in order to evaluate all 3 of the curriculums. So I'm going to start with Benchmark. So Benchmark was our 6th grade dual language Spanish curriculum that we piloted. We had a smaller committee that did pilot this. we only had a couple teachers that were able to be on the pilot team and represent sixth grade dual language, but we also had coaches and principals involved in the sixth grade pilot and training for that as well. Some of the strengths that came out of the evaluation for Benchmark was that they had some good language development supports that we really liked and that we hadn't seen before. And we thought that those were very beneficial. And we also thought that they had some explicit Spanish grammar material that was very useful and needed in our dual language program. However, challenges that we discussed at depth was the concern over the level of rigor, scaffolds or lack of scaffolds, the cohesiveness of materials in the organization. Kind of all three of these go together: cohesiveness of materials, organization, and the user-friendly components. Those provided quite a few challenges for our pilot teachers. And so we had actually two teachers or a teacher and a principal actually that did the final evaluation, who were able to attend all the trainers and work with the curriculum. And both did not feel that it met the mark and the criteria for a recommendation for adoption. So we are not moving forward with Benchmark sixth grade dual language. And I can, when we get through the other two curriculums, I can if you have questions about next steps for that, we can talk about that too. So this is the Amplify. This will be Amplify K6 English and K5 Spanish. And we had 16 5s, 9 4s, 3 2s, 2 3s. You can see all that for a total of 28 pilot evals. And so overwhelmingly, we did have everyone in support of the curriculum. We did have one person that had some reservations, but overall still was in favor of the curriculum. And we discussed those and moved forward with a recommendation for adoption of Amplify and Frog Street. Frog Street, again, pre-K. So these are the recommendations being brought forth. Pre-kindergarten dual language, Frog Street, K6 English, which is Amplify CKLA, and at the sixth grade level ELA, and then K5 Spanish, which is referred to as Caminos. So the next steps. So I don't have the second read on this timeline, but a second read will come to the board at the end of June. If the curriculums are approved for adoption, then we will submit our order at the end of June. We have a tight timeline of turning these materials around and getting them ready for teachers come August. And so we will be working throughout the summer, and our coaches have graciously agreed to provide quite a bit of support over the summer to help prepare materials and resources and supports for not just the fall, but for our trainings. That a lot of things have to be put in order before we start our trainings in August. And then we do have 3 training windows that we have provided to staff in communications up to this point that we have penciled out. So we can provide multiple opportunities for teachers, specialists, and assistants to be trained before the school year begins. So what do we have to do between the end of June and the beginning of August? We have some things to do. Some of these are year long, and some of these have to be done by the beginning of August. So we need to create a prep and material resource bank for our teachers so that they are not doing everything from scratch. We have to develop a year-long unit scope and sequence. And that would be for year 1, year 2, and year 3. We have to provide some DL and Spanish curriculum in a structured dual language model, meaning just because we adopt English and Spanish curriculum does not mean that it's not necessarily going to fit perfectly in our dual language model. There has to be some tweaking based on who's teaching what language. There's some teachers that teach both languages and some teachers that just teach the English or the Spanish. And so we'll have to work with that to make sure that that fits each school and the needs of the school. We'll have to align our interventions. We will have to look through our digital components and make sure that those are ready to go for teachers so that that's part of the training. And we will have to align our assessments. And when I talk about assessments, I don't just mean benchmark, such as like Easy CVM and STAR, but we also have to align the curriculum assessments. We'll need to look at our language learner supports. There are supports within Amplify. And so as we learn those, we'll have to figure out together how that's going to look next year and then the year after. We will have to provide 2 teachers ongoing support around how to provide scaffolds, differentiation, and engagement strategies. We will need to provide like a temporary 1-year report card transition plan. And then after year 1, then we will revise our report cards so that they are more aligned with the curriculum and the standards that are provided within each unit, I guess you could say. We'll have to also do a skills crosswalk because our incoming first graders on up will not have had Amplify. And so there will be a skill gap between what they've received depending on grade level or school, and then where Amplify would assume they come in at. So we will have to provide that crosswalk support. We're looking at enhancements that complement the core, especially for those kids that are ready for some enrichment. And then we are also looking at science and social studies content and how we can align that more with our literacy core, because Amplify is interdisciplinary. So it also covers topics like science and social studies. I think I mentioned earlier, one of the units that runs throughout the grade levels, K6, is plants, and then it goes to ecology and then geology. So there's some opportunity there to align and just better work together in different content areas. So that's where we're at. I'm gonna stop sharing. That's where we're at with the adoption. And where we're at with recommendations. So questions for our team.
I'm curious, will you continue to use ECRI and Kendor also with kids that need extra help?
Yeah, I think we're still going. So what we're talking through right now, Kendor for sure. And I think there's also still a place for well, right now, I think there's still a place for ECRI in small group. Amplify comes with quite a host of interventions at the tier 2 level. And so it may be, as we learn more with the curriculum next year, we may learn that there are tier 2 interventions that make more sense than to use ECRI, just because it's aligned to the core, right? So the more the kids can get intervention that's related to directly what they're learning in core, the more effective it will be. But we don't know yet, right? Because we haven't experienced it for the full year, and we don't know yet all that it comes with. So for at least next year, Kate, I would say we would keep ECRI in small group. And so let's clarify something. We're talking about core during core time. And then a separate time would be for small group / intervention, right, outside of the core. And so that's when then we're still looking at the interventions we still have. We need to align them better, but I don't think we don't get rid of everything until we know exactly how everything fits together.
Good. Thank you.
So I know one of the things I'm excited about with this is the assessment package, and it's not something that they're going to jump into next year, but this has aligned assessments K through 6, I believe, which should help us. Right now, we use different assessments K2 than we do 3, 4, and just trying to simplify and align that assessment system should make it easier for us to figure out how kids are doing and get them the interventions they need. So that'll come down the road. We have some learning to do next year on this curriculum, but it's something I know I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's their amplifies, they refer to it as M-Class and M-Class Lectura. It's actually one of the rare biliteracy assessments out there. And it's absolutely fantastic because it looks at English and Spanish skills in tandem. So you're no longer having to look at kids like in isolation of language. So we're looking at more of whole child all at once. And so it's pretty dang fantastic. And it also then is very much aligned to the core curriculum. So based on what the kiddos are doing within the assessment, then it points you towards the curriculum, what needs to be done differently, a pre-teach or a reteach, and the resources are given there to the teacher. It's very user-friendly. So we're excited about exploring that.
Yeah. The other thing that you and I have talked about is teaching the science of reading and how important that is that, letters, and that administrators have to go through it along with the teachers. And I know it's a money issue, but I really think that that's at the core also. If you do not understand the science of reading, then it's very difficult as an administrator to support your teachers and then also to help them meet the needs that they meet. And at the university level, they are not teaching the science of reading yet. Or maybe Eastern, maybe the college over in LeGrand is one of the first colleges maybe doing that. But I think that's a very serious component that the administrators and the teachers need to understand the science of teaching, and they're not doing that at the college level right now.
Agreed. I mean, I think money is an issue. I don't think it's necessarily a major barrier, though. I mean, I think, it's also figuring out time for admin and for teachers to be part of this. It's wonderful. And we actually, Joelle, Laura, myself, Tisa, Kelly Trout, Heather, I'm forgetting one, we are towards the end of our letters training. And it's been fantastic. And we have learned so much. It is truly time intensive. It is like a college level course. So we just gotta provide support in a way where it's doable for teachers. But I agree, it's really great, wonderful learning. It's not a program, it's just education. So it's
right. And I think that I was talking to Dave about it the other day. It would make sense to have the administrators at the elementary do that program first, and then after the teachers get the new reading adoption under their belt, is also have it, because we can't make the assumption that the new teachers understand it because it's still not in our university system. And it's very knowledgeable based for our teachers, and they need to have it. Any other questions? Well, thank you and your huge team that piloted and evaluated it. You did a great job. Thank you so much. And this was very, very informative. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys, for all your support. We appreciate it. We'll be back at the end of the month.
We look forward to seeing you.
In between that time, Elena, so if they have questions, they should get those to you so we can prep for the next meeting.
Yeah. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll go on. This is a long meeting tonight. So the next one is John O'Neill, the revised school calendar.
Okay, thank you. And just want to, again, extend congratulations and thanks to Elena, the adoption committee, the pilot team. I mean, exactly what you were talking about, Kate, the science of reading. Elena predicated all of that with a deep dive, the very first couple meetings with our elementary principals, myself in the room, and others, but you're absolutely right. And that's what helped inform the selection process. So good job, Elena and team. So in order to support our new adoption, should the board agree with us and adopt at the end of this month, one thing that we were looking at was professional development. If we do adopt a new program, we need to provide the professional development. Historically, we would help front load that during the summer. So we would set up summer trainings and we would have some pretty good participation levels. However, as you can expect, when we approved the district calendar, we were hoping for a significant portion of our teachers to jump in, if not the vast majority, to summer training opportunities, which we could pay them their hourly rate to participate. However, coming out of this year, understandably, they're tired. It's been a long year. And when we put out a survey to our teachers, and Elena pushed it out 2 or 3 times, the highest we got were 20% of our literacy teachers willing to come in during the early part of August, and only up to 20% in the late part of August. So that left 60% of our teachers that need training to be trained during pre-service week. So the item in front of you this evening is a request so that we could include 2 full days of professional development during pre-service. And also this would allow some time for that training to take place. So what we're requesting is that for grades PK6, the October 21st professional development non-student day would be changed to a student contact day in order to add extra day for pre-service week for those grade levels, PK6. This would only affect grades PK6, and grades 7 through 12 pre-service and student contact days would remain unchanged. Again, this proposal just moves a non-student professional development day to the start of the year, and October 21st calendar day would be changed to a student contact day for grades PK6. This change has been reviewed by the FGEA, and they support the change as it provides necessary training time and on the new literacy adoption and provides flexibility for 5th and 6th grade teachers to complete their grades. And I'll get into this real quick. So if I can screen share, so I can share with you what this would look like. Can you see that, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this is the proposed request with revisions. The classroom setup day would be all teachers, August 29th, Tuesday. Tuesday the 30th would be the whole district address union time for grades PK12, and then building site PD time, PK12, for the remainder of that day. That's important, especially for our PK4 schools, as 50% of our schools, 3 of 6, have brand new principals this fall with their staff. So they need some time during pre-service. So that's an added benefit. The Wednesday, the 31st, would be day 1 of lit training, day 1 PK6. The 1st for Thursday would be day 2 for lit adoption training. Then we would hit September 2nd, non-student day, Labor Day. Then that's where that classroom setup day would take place. So what we're doing is, instead of a PD day on October 21st, we're moving it up to September 6th to give them the second day. Normally this right here would be classroom setup day PK12, but you can see that that's day 2 lit training, and then their classroom setup day is pre-K6, September 6th. First day of school, PK6, would be September 7th. And then that Friday, October 21st, which would be normally a PD day, non-student day, PK6, would be a full day student contact day. So we're not losing any instructional time. We're just rearranging so that we can get the necessary PD training front loaded. Elena has talked extensively with Amplify and their training representatives, and that's a 3.5-4 day training normally. She and her team can condense it into 2 full days with some follow-up very specifically throughout the year as needed. But the grade 5-6 teachers that issue grades, see, it's a real simple trade day for PK4. 5-6, it's a half PD day and a half grading day. What we talked about with the union and with Summer Johnson is grades 5-6 teachers can issue their grades either that week from October 17th to the 21st, accessing sub-release time, or 4 hours of paid time outside of the school day. That could be after school or on the weekend, and to get their grades done. And what the union liked about that is that they agreed with us. That gives the additional training time necessary to fully implement and kick off the implementation of the LIT program, as well as gives teacher compensation for grades 5, 6 for their grading time. Any questions? Again, this is first read. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Looks good. Any questions? Okay. We'll go on to the next agenda item, School Resource Officer, Dave Parker.
And the last agenda item. So we're sliding into home here. Want to take just a second. On May 9th, I presented out the data that our committee kind of talked about and went through. So I'm not going to go completely over that, although after I finish this and between now and the June 27th, I know you can send me more questions and I'll prep more answers, but wanted to just put in front of you an MOU for a school resource officer. Again, just reminding everybody, we sat a committee in February. We had 5 different meetings. We looked at data research. Specifically, we spent a lot of time looking at kind of our data and both data that the district kept and then also data that we got from the police. We presented that data on May 9th. I think the big issue that we came across is the absence of the SRO position did not eliminate the need for us to contact the police. And having interactions with so many different officers was creating situations that we were trying to avoid. Our current needs is we want to have input in the selection and the training of the officer that's working with our kids. That's the primary reason why we're coming back to you. Having so many officers, it's hard for us to make sure that they, one, like to interact with kids and have the training necessary to do that. We want them to be trauma informed and understand equity and anti-racism, de-escalation techniques, have a desire to work with kids, and calling the non-emergency line. We're not always sure that that person is going to be ready to work with our kids. So we sat down, I met with Narce, I met with Val and the chief and Jesse Vanderzan and the city manager, and we kind of went through this document piece by piece. I've linked it in here so you'll be able to pull it open, take a look at it. We added in some information about the using an equity lens. I also linked in to one of those documents I sent you, kind of what that looks like. It has data, although Kate brought up something that I think we should mention, which is just a log of hours. I don't think we, when I look back at the MOU, I didn't see a specific like log of hours. And I think that would be good for us to keep. So I think between now and the 27th, I'll try and add that into the data and reporting part, because I just think it'd be, I think that's interesting data that I didn't call it out. It defines the purpose, the mission, the goals of the program, and then it goes into 2 very long sections that list out the responsibilities of the police and the responsibilities of the district. Take a look at those. If there's other pieces in there that we're missing, I'm happy to sit down and talk with Henry and Jesse about them. Includes the costs. Okay, it includes a collaboration in the hiring process between the district and the police. This is very important to us, and I'm communicating with the city just how important that is to us, that it's kind of a deal breaker if we don't have that. So just want to lay it out there that that's kind of where we're at on that. It outlines the training components. You'll see a very large section in there, has a more casual dress for the SRO. There are some minimums, which is they do have to have their bulletproof vest and their sidearm. defines the role of the SRO in school discipline, which is really, unless there's the possibility of a law being broken, they don't have a role in school discipline. So, and that'll be something that it outlines in there that I need to educate both administrators and the public around what those rights are. Addresses the required participation in the behavioral safety response team. This is our safety assessment team that this turns out we haven't had as much participation by the police on this team, and it's really, they're feeling that. So this is actually a really important part for us. Calls for the district to post the details of the SRO position. So as monthly reports come out about data and then kind of quarterly reports to the board, that we're posting those up to the web pages. It also identifies me adding a section into the student handbook that talks about what the rights of the student are with regard to the SRO. Identifies the SRO has an active role in our crisis response training, and it's a 1-year agreement. And then we'll kind of come back, we'll look at the data again, and we'll come back with a report to the board at the end of the year. Between now and the 27th, if you have any questions or you're reading through it and you want different data, please send that to me. I will report, I'll wrap it up back out to everybody on the board and also work with the chief around it. This will be an action item on June 27th. There's both the city and us need to deal with our budgets around this. So it will be an action item on the 27th. And that's kind of where we're at. Questions that I can answer for you.
Dave, so is it the SRO program is designed to fill 3 overall roles? Is the roles the same thing as goals?
A little bit. I think they kind of laid out, I'm trying to remember the document right now, but there were, there were 3 roles and we have some goals for the program.
Oh, because I read through this twice and I can't find the goals. So that's why I'm asking.
Yep.
Maybe you can
I'll look and get back to you.
Yeah, get back to me. And then I want to know how we're going to measure these. That was the other thing is I didn't know how you were going to measure those. And then there was one comment here that, let me go to where it was. So it said, hold on a minute. Oh, there's a couple of things. It said reviewing the MOU. It said the MOU and the SRO data reports will be reviewed annually in June. But then it said the MOU will stay in effect for one period of 1 year. Both parties will make the determination of whether to renew, amend, and or terminate the agreement at least 60 days prior to May 1st. So it seems to me that you probably need to review it before June. I mean, you might want to approve it in June, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So
let me take a look at that, Kate. I think that language was originally on it was kind of a 3-year contract, and we kind of, as Narce and Val, we start the chief and everybody's like, let's just do this for a year. So I probably need to go back and take a look at that language and make sure it agrees.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there was one other thing that I wasn't clear about. Let's see, where was it? Well, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was. It was under relationship building and classroom presentations. The SRO will meet with their building administrators and case managers annually to identify which specialized programs are offered at each school and the location of each program within the building. So what does that mean?
So like one of the issues that we have right now with crisis planning is the police actually need to know what our buildings look like. And so part of this is understanding which buildings have which programs and kind of where they're at and where are things in the district. And so I think that's really just helping them get to know what are the different programs in different schools.
Okay.
I also, the one question about how will you measure, we lay that out in the data and reporting section, exactly what data we're keeping and what, how when and how we're reporting it. I think that's the place where I need to add in that they'll keep a log of their time, Kate. But that's just so you know, that's how we're going to measure it, is with that data.
Okay, I'll read through it again because it wasn't clear to me, but I'll read through it again. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dave? Okay. Where is my agenda here? There's an enrollment report for future. Oh, does anyone have any future board items or board discussion that they would like to bring about right now? Okay. The enrollment report, I did go over the enrollment report. I don't see anything on K-5 online. It says there's 0 students. That can't be correct because I know that there's, anyway, that needs to be correct. It doesn't make sense.
Kate,
Yeah,
it's in the far right-hand corner where it says virtual enrollment, right there.
virtual enrollment.
Yeah. I know you have it in front of you.
I do have it. I have it printed
You
out
want
because
me-
I always go over it. So.
Do you want
I
me
don't-
to screen share for everyone or?
I
you got
don't
it?
see it there. I see summary of grade and I see total upper and maybe I printed it up. Yeah, let me see where you have that.
Let's see.
Okay.
So,
And then I had another comment.
sure.
I don't know if it's you, John, or Dave, but where is it?
See right here, it's virtual enrollment, kinder. Remember, we have grades 1 through 6.
Well, you know what? It is not on this sheet of paper. So, so
John,
I don't
you
have.
have, John, you have the May.
Oh, I have
2nd
May
one.
2nd. I called up June. Hold on.
Okay, well, I don't see it.
Just
Anyway, just send it to me later, okay?
Will do.
I didn't see it. And the other thing I wanted to ask, are we having preschool right now at Cornelius and Echo Shaw and Fern Hill right now? Or is
Yes.
Fern Hill next year? Okay. So I'm looking at these class sizes, which I think are phenomenal, okay? They're like 16, 15, 16, 17 at Cornelius, at Harvey Clark, 15, 15, 16, 15. Those are the best numbers ever, but what is next year? Do we have any idea what next year is going to look like?
Yeah, we've already sent you the enrollment forecast, and K4 we're 23.5
Okay.
is what the forecast is. We're again, we budgeted at the floor, but we staffed at some of them coming back. So we're going to be, if no kids come back, we'll be a little overstaffed, which will push that class size low again, like it did this year. But I do think that we're going to see some students come back, but we'll see.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Well, even if it stayed low at that number,
Yeah.
it would be advantage, especially after COVID. So
Yep.
it would be terrific. Okay, those are my only thoughts. All right, is there any other, there's a financial report in there also, if you want to look that over. It was very well done again by Eileen. If there's no other questions, if there's no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 7:37 and we go to executive session to discuss matters under the authority of the Oregon Revised Statutes, ORS 192.6601 and 192.660B, dismissal or discipline of employees or public officer. This will be a separate Zoom meeting. Could we have a 5-minute break?
Yes.
And so let's get back. What do you think?
7:45 straight up.
Yeah, that would be perfect. That'd be great. Thank you. All right, we'll start. Can we do that, Kathy?
Yes, you may.
Okay, all right. Okay.